I, 27 female, am really conflicted regarding my decision. Me and my late fiancé, Alex, were together for about 12 years. We were high school sweethearts. We were engaged for around 3 years when he passed away due to an accident in the beginning of 2020. I was really close with his family before everything happened. Once he died, spending time with them was only hurting me with what could have been. I moved to the other side of the city to be closer to my new job, and I still talk to them, but not as much as before. A few weeks ago, Alex's brother, Ben, came to visit me. He is planning to propose to his girlfriend. I was very happy for him. He asked me if he could have the family's engagement ring. The ring Alex gave me was a family ring which had been in the family for generations. Alex's mom gave him the ring when he proposed to me, as he was the eldest son. I have been wearing this ring for almost 3 years. It's a symbol that Alex wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. It represents our relationship to me. I conveyed the same. Ben lost his calm, and he was telling me about it's his family ring and that it belongs to him now that Alex is dead. I told him to get out. I called Alex's mom to let her know why I wanted to keep the ring. She told me she wouldn't have minded if I had been married to Alex. But I wasn't, so I am not part of the family, and therefore I should return the ring. She also told me that since I am young, I am going to move on, and that it's unfair to hold on to a ring that I will never wear again. Especially a ring that belonged to her family for generations. It belongs to the family, and not me or Alex, as Alex didn't buy it. I would have at least considered giving back the ring if a few years had passed and I had moved on. I just can't bear the thought of parting with this ring now. So I told her that I am sorry she felt that way, but Alex gave me this ring and I am not giving it back, and promptly hung up. Ben and his mom are spamming my phone with messages and calls about how I am trying to steal their family ring. They obviously think I am an idiot. Edit. At first, it was just a matter of civil disagreement. But as time goes on, it's getting more heated and a lot more yelling and crying from both sides. So, am I the idiot? Our girl. Not the idiot, but I think both sides have reasons for wanting the ring. But I think you should give the ring back. It's a family heirloom, and they want to keep it in the family. The fact that they said that means they don't consider you family. Do you really still want a relationship with them after hearing that? I wouldn't after being slapped in the face. And I wouldn't keep the ring even to spite them either. The harassment would not be worth it, and it would cement the end of any positive relationship with them. OP is not the idiot because they said they are willing to give the ring back after they are ready to move on. I agree. This is one of those weird situations where both everyone and no one sucks. None of you are acting particularly rationally because of your joint recent loss. If it wasn't a family heirloom, it would be completely out of line for them to ask for it back. But it is, and they probably have at least some legal claim on it. I'd give it back, since I'm sure OP has other things to remember him by. Things that he picked out for her, or they picked out together, that are more meaningful to who they were as their own little family, not an extension of his. Regardless of being an heirloom, it was given by the owner as a gift, so she now owns the ring. Everyone still sucks, though. Depends on the state. Engagement rings can be considered conditional gifts and don't become property until the condition, marriage, is fulfilled. That usually only applies when the engagement ends, not when someone dies. I doubt very seriously any court would require the return of this ring. Legality doesn't really reflect on a-holery anyway. In some, actually most I think, states, engagement rings are legally defined as a conditional gift that is contingent on the recipient marrying the original owner, proposing property, and legally mandates that if marriage does not occur, then ownership of the ring reverts to the person who originally gave them the ring. As marriage never occurred, and there is no mention of a will that the late boyfriend specified OP is to receive the ring, then it could very well be that legally the ring is the property of his next of kin, which would be the family and not the OP, based on the information included in their post. So the courts likely would actually make them return the ring. Legality aside, from a morality perspective, I think she should return the ring. It was given to her with the agreed expectation that OP would marry the late fiancé, and they have not kept their end of the agreement. It royally sucks, but returning it feels like the right thing to do. Not quite the same, but when me and my ex-husband divorced, I was mandated by the court to give back the engagement ring because it was a family heirloom. I mean, I didn't mind giving it back. Anything to get him out of my life. I am 28, married to my wife, 24, for 2 years. I only had 2 girlfriends prior to my wife. First was a high school ex who I dated from age 15 to 18. At the age of 16, she got pregnant by me. They were twins, and we decided to keep them. Unfortunately, in her second trimester, she got into an accident and ended up miscarrying the twins. It was an insanely traumatic experience. After high school, I went to university and eventually medical school, while she stayed back home and got a job at a store. We drifted apart, but still have each other on Facebook. She's a store manager now and got married when she was 25. We live in different parts of the country now. She still lives in my hometown, which is 11 hours away by car. A week ago, I posted on Facebook that my wife and I are expecting our first child together. My ex liked the post and messaged me, "Congratulations." Yesterday, my wife and I came home around 10 p.m. Then at 11, while we were watching TV in the living room, the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw a familiar face. After I asked, "Who is it?" my ex responded with her name. I opened the door and asked what was she doing here. She said she was in town and wanted to pay me a visit. Apparently, my stepmom, who I have limited contact with, told her my address. I invited her inside because it was raining out and introduced her to my wife. My ex literally sprang at my wife and gave her this big bear hug. She handed her a bag. Inside were a bunch of baby clothes and toys. My ex explained that she had kept almost all the stuff that was given to us 12 plus years ago when we were expecting our twins. My wife knows the whole story, but still she was pretty confused as to why my ex was here. I was too. However, we let her sit with us in the living room, gave her some tea and fruits, and talked for a bit, which was such a mistake. She revealed that her husband left her a month ago. She was legit crying at that point and didn't make much sense. She was babbling about how super pretty my wife was and how we're going to make beautiful exotic babies and how we live such a wonderful life. Her rambling made me wonder if she was drunk or in a manic state. She eventually fell asleep on the couch. I wanted to wake her up, but my wife stopped me and said we should let her stay. In the middle of the night, my wife took her to our guest bedroom where she slept until noon. I left for work, and that night, my ex was still there. I told my wife in private that I didn't want X here and that we should tell her to go home. My wife said we should at least let her stay one more night, but I said that's not going to happen. After dinner, I told my ex that she has to leave because, frankly, I don't feel comfortable having her here. She got very upset and started crying and left our house in tears, then drove away. My wife was mad at me and said I lacked empathy by shooing away a vulnerable woman from our home. Am I crazy for not wanting my unstable ex around my pregnant wife? Not the idiot, but your wife sounds like a freaking saint. Came here to say this. Wow, OP. You married an amazingly kind woman, truly. I love women who uplift and see other women. X is truly in pain and clearly having a trauma response to the news of your new baby and needs help. But for the record, you're not the idiot for setting boundaries, and your wife is a woman we should all aspire to be in moments like this. While I do agree with everything you said, I totally get the protective instinct OP had by expelling her from their house. It's not just about setting boundaries or being empathetic like some people have said, but outright protecting his wife and their baby from harm. Since you can never know what kind of action someone who's clearly having a mental breakdown and just drove 11 hours to their ex's house, who just had a baby after years with no contact, is gonna take. She certainly still had feelings for OP, and her husband leaving her and OP having a child triggered something that could be extremely harmful. To be fair, I wouldn't even let her stay there alone with my wife while I'm at work. but I would be as diplomatic as possible. She probably realized that OP's ex needed help. OP, I know you don't owe this woman your space, but please, if you can reach out to a family member of hers and tell them what you saw. She sounds like she's in the middle of a mental break. You could also say that prioritizing some crazy woman over your husband just because of how she feels about it is incredibly selfish. And that insulting that husband after he refused to be taken advantage of by that crazy person was rude, immature, and self-centered. She isn't a saint. The ex was obviously and legitimately crazy, and letting her stay there put her entire family at risk. She's not a saint. My 23 female boyfriend Mark, 28 male, gets along with my family really well. I used to love this side of our relationship until Mark and I started having problems. The past 8 months, we've been fighting quite a bit more than we used to. For the most part, we've been talking things through and are working on keeping personal stress out of the relationship. However, when we do fight, no matter who starts it or how significant or insignificant the reason is, Mark tends to vent to my parents, especially to my mother. Mark's not very close with his parents, rarely meets his mom, never met his dad. So in a way, I'm happy for him finding a support network in my family. It's just that I used to be able to talk to my mother very openly about my things, and for quite some time it has happened that Mark's been telling his side of things before me, and my side is not heard anymore. At first, my mom was pretty objective about what she heard, but now she and my dad have been taking Mark's side in everything. Eventually, I did stop talking about any of this to my family, but they keep bringing up our disagreements about which they've heard from Mark. My mom keeps referring to Mark as the son she never had. I have 2 sisters, and it seems that she's worried of us breaking up and therefore defending Mark in everything. Things escalated yesterday when I eventually told Mark that his behavior has changed my family's dynamics, and I'd appreciate if he didn't talk about our interpersonal stuff to my parents anymore. He was upset and claimed that he didn't specifically call my mom in order to complain about me, but these things just come up. I responded with, then just stop calling her, which was a bit too hurtful, but honestly, I find it hard to believe that he doesn't call especially to complain about me when my mom seems to know our fights thoroughly in just a matter of hours. He's acting like nothing happened now, but I can tell he's not fine. Not the idiot. This is a red flag for abuse. A lot of abusers, and crappy people in general, charm their victim's family so that the victim doesn't have a support system. Giving advice about mending things is one thing. Your parents can like a partner, but it's disturbing how close they are to him and how much they're taking his side for everything. Imagine if your best friend kept taking your boyfriend's side, thus making you feel awful if he and you break up. This is totally abnormal, and I hope your parents understand that both they and your boyfriend are stepping way out of line. They're going to throw a fit if you break up with him, and you don't deserve that kind of treatment. Not the idiot. Unpopular opinion from licensed clinician here. This may not be abusive behavior, at least not deliberately. While I agree with the above that it is possible, I want to propose an alternative. To me, this sounds like a boundary issue. I'm assuming that your boyfriend is an only child, in which case it may be that your parents are the first example of intimate parental support he's experienced. He may not have learned how to develop healthy boundaries with open and supportive people. If he spent his childhood pushing his parents for intimacy only to be rebuffed, then seeking is all he knows. As for the parents, I think it is unfair to suggest narcissism immediately. We would expect good parents to react with compassion to someone expressing a need for support. That's what parents do. This may be their first experience as a parent with someone as emotionally needy as the boyfriend. I would also ask my colleagues in the field to consider that this appears to be the first time that OP has mentioned this to either party. While she has been feeling hurt and betrayed, her boyfriend and parents have been continuing those behaviors in blissful ignorance of the effect on OP. This sounds less like a nest of narcissism and more like a chance for a group discussion. Boyfriend is upset because, from his point of view, he got yelled at out of nowhere. Parents are confused because they have no idea what they did wrong. OP is upset because she doesn't understand why people keep doing this thing that upsets her.